little, have all the documentation that's required. This comes out of our operating fund, as it is greater than 3 years old.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
That's on the tax sale, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
excess bid,
No
yes.
other discussion.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I request a resolution to pay MRM invoice in the amount of $13,714.73. The bill came in late and I was not able to get it on the claims list in time.
So moved. All right, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Would request a resolution for permission to close the West Fraser account. All bills have been paid. The state and West Fraser, they have blessed it, and the money that is in that account is actually money that was paid out of the operating fund when all the monies were pooled together. So it just needs to be moved out and back into the operating fund.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. And for the public, the West Fraser Fund was an account that was set up to handle the widening of Highway 22. And it came through the county, even though it was a state-funded project. And we just named it the West Fraser Fund. So it really doesn't have anything to do with West Fraser. It has to do with the state highway. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Request a resolution to advertise and hire a temporary full-time janitor.
That's
So
confusing.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and for clarification, we have a lady going out on maternity leave, and the reason that it's temporary, part-time, is that it will be less than 6 months, which qualifies it as a part-time employee, or temporary, excuse me. But she will, or he or she will be asked to work 40 hours per week.
Can we not get
Somebody gonna do
a
that?
question? Can I have a question?
That's weird, huh?
If we cannot get nobody to do this right here, can we not get a lady inmate that was a trustee over at the jail to do this temporary, for how long it takes? Gerald? I know the sheriff's not here, so I'll just put you on the spot.
You the main man.
This is Steve Franklin. It's very difficult. We don't have, I don't know how to put it, the quality of inmates we used to have.
They can't mop a floor?
No, you don't understand.
Well, the position, you're saying for
What you're gonna get is, you're gonna get somebody up here leaving them dope in a bathroom, they go in the bathroom and take the dope out. You don't have the quality of what we used to have.
not only that,
So if you're gonna have somebody up here, you're gonna have to have somebody stand over them supervisor.
not only that, the places they have to clean are kind of off limits to security and everything, and like some of the places. Okay.
In other words, we could give you that person, but you're gonna have to assure us that you're gonna be standing up there.
I'm gonna retract that statement.
See there, Jimmy?
All right, so we have a motion and a second to allow to advertise and hire a temporary 40-hour-a-week janitor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Attorney, do you have anything?
Not unless you want me to talk about the sheriff's speeding bill.
Please do, if you will, just update us briefly.
Very briefly, last week, what was Senate Bill 228 was passed, which alters the allocation from the state for prisoner food funds. And it was a fantastic deal. It increased the food allocation from $1.75 to $2.25 per day. So going forward, it'll be per capita. The significance of this bill is tied to the publicly reported stuff that came out of Etowah County, where prison funds were paid to the sheriff and used for otherwise personal activities. And that piece of Alabama law that allowed that payment to occur to that sheriff is stricken. They repealed that provision of this law. In addition, they created, we'll call it a rainy day fund, but it in essence is a $500,000 a year continuing appropriation that will reside with the state finance director in the event that the appropriated funds for feeding prisoners is subject to a cost overrun. The county commission chairman and the sheriff can jointly apply for an emergency allocation at the end of the fiscal year. So you can't do it until the fiscal year is run and you realized already the overrun. And in that situation, you can petition for 80% of the cost overrun not to exceed $25,000. So 20% of the overrun, the county would still be on the hook for if there's an overrun. The bill allows the sheriff to roll over any unused food funds in that food account, with the exception if it gives him authority to use up to 25% of the rollover funds for other law enforcement purposes of the sheriff's office. Doesn't have to, but he can. Otherwise, all of it would be rolled over for the next fiscal year.
So the rainy day fund would be in situations where, for instance, groceries escalated to a point where you couldn't feed your prisoners on $2.25 per day.
Correct.
And so if you had to come out of general fund for a certain amount, you could be reimbursed 80% of what you've come out of general fund.
To a maximum of $25,000.
Okay. And as long as fuel prices are down and commodities are low, we can stay within that 225 pretty easily. Gerald shared with me earlier that if, diesel were to go back up to $4 a gallon and you've got surcharges on all of your groceries, it can and has exceeded that in the past. At which point, the commission will be responsible for the allocation from general funds for the shortfall to be paid back from the state up to $25,000.
And the final comment on that bill is it does require the sheriff to segregate those funds into a separate food fund account that is subject to the Department of Public Examiners review on an annual basis. And all transactions within that account have to be recorded on forms that the Department of Finance and the Public Examiner are going to create. The bill goes into effect 90 days after it becomes law. If all goes according to the way things have been going, the governor would either sign this bill on Thursday of this week, or she won't sign it and it'll become law just because it sits. So it should be 90 days from now, this week, before it's put into place.
So that's $205,000 and $205,312 for an average of 250 inmates.
That's correct.
So if you go over that, the only reimbursements is gonna be,
The emergency fund,
which is up to 25,000.
maximum of 25,000.
So we go.
Yes.
You can feed them
This
for
is
that.
per person now.
They
So
have
if
all
our-
this
If our
time.
jail numbers go up, that money goes up. It's really the allocation of the actual cost per meal.
So the sheriff is still required to make sure that the food is bought and took and everything like he's been doing, I guess,
We'll manage the account.
manage the account.
But we'll also provide the service, either by staff or purchasing third party.
So examples of things that have happened in the past. Say you have a produce truck wreck on the interstate, the trailer's torn up. The sheriff will run out, buy the produce off the trailer, unload it, bring it back and put it in the coolers. Those things have happened, but he can buy that cheaper. So this bill still gives the sheriff a little buy-in in feeding these prisoners cheaper, because he can spend up to, how much of that rollover fund was it?
Up to 25% of the rollover he could spend on other law enforcement activities.
So the cheaper he feeds the guys, he's still incentivized not to try to feed the maximum amount of money. So I mean, you've got minimum nutrition requirements, but you also want to do it as cheaply as possible so that you can get some of that rollover money to use for other things. And the difference today, it used to go to the sheriff personally, and now with this new law, it does not.
Well, if you do it right, you'll have a good health plan too. Nobody won't come out of jail fat.
Some of them might be right if they have a rig long enough.
Go.
All right, I just, before we adjourn, I just got just kind of FYI stuff, just information. The hospital bill, as most of you know, became law last Tuesday. Our other two local bills have been voted on by the Senate, have been sent to the governor for signature, and she can, either sign them or they become law. But,
On Thursday.
but both of those have been gone, they're out. So pretty much, everything that we have sent down there has been approved.
Representative Martin, even though he's had these health issues, he has been on top of these things. He's been in or not in Montgomery, but calling and making sure that our bills were moving and getting taken care of, even while he was doing his treatments and feeling terrible. So if you guys get a chance, shoot him a text message. I don't think he feels like talking. Shoot him a text message and tell him how much you appreciate him going above and beyond when he's been in such bad condition and dealing with such tragic things when he's still taking care of his business.
And you get a chance to thank April Weavers. There was a situation going on down where a representative from north end of the county, north end of the state, was basically trying to do a one-man filibuster and try to keep local bills from coming through because he didn't like what was going on in the Senate. And so April kind of went nose to nose with him and got all this stuff pushed through and got it taken care of.
We've had a solid delegation, y'all. They've represented us well.
Yes.
All of those
It's done a
guys
good job too.
deserve a phone call or a slap on the back or a text or something because they've stuck their neck out for this county, and they told us they would, and they did.
Our two senators pushed our bills right on through with no opposition.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries, meeting adjourned.